Thank you, Michal. That was a very kind introduction. And I should say, I am really excited to see the faces here. Some of you I know from the records, from your files. Some of you are friends and colleagues, teachers here and there, and also well the staff of the Azrieli team. I should say that it's the second year I've been working through this system, and I am full of praise for the kind of professional and serious work that is done here. And I should say it's also a lot of fun, but it's also inspiring to be part of this system in the little share that I have in it. So thank you also for inviting me to present today. I think it's a good opportunity. Now, I got the invitation to speak about 10 days ago, something like that. And I said, wow, 10 days, what can I do in 10 days? And meanwhile, I had time enough to get COVID and get healthy back again. I almost healthy, not entirely healthy, but almost healthy. Lucky we're in Zoom. So, life leads us to all sorts of places. I should also say, well, I've got an invitation to give a keynote for 10 minutes about the humanities. I think that's a very, it's a very presumptuous job to speak about 10 minutes on the humanities as a keynote speaker. And obviously I can't do much about it. What I will do in the 8 minutes or so that I have is sharing with you some of the things that bother me at this stage. I can say at my stage, I am kind of mid-career. Those who know me can say I just turned 50. So at mid-career, I'm somewhat senior in my field. I'm doing okay in terms of research. Hello to you. But there's a lot more to look for, and I've got kind of 20 more years of academic career. So I want to share some thoughts with you, and I would like to begin by sharing this picture of this person with you. Israelis probably know this person. Those who are not Israelis, we need some introduction. Professor Yeshayahu Leibovich. So, and this is my only presentation here. I will soon turn it off, but you can Google him yourself. So Professor Yeshayahu Leibovich was a giant in Israeli intellectual life. You can say in the mid 20th century. He passed away in the 1990s. So Professor Leibovich won his PhD in pre-war Germany. He was born in Riga, Latvia. He won his PhD in pre-war Germany in biochemistry. He was professor of biology at the Hebrew University and won most of his fame for his contribution to the mind-body problem between physiology and the biology and psychology and philosophy, the mind-body problem. And I should say, I have no idea how relevant his work on the mind-body problem still is. Maybe some of you will be able to say that. So that was his scientific fame. Being a professor of biochemistry and medicine at the Hebrew University. At the same time, he won most of his public fame for being a philosopher of Judaism. And he developed his own way in the philosophy of Judaism, something that has to do with the way a person is loyal to God. What does it mean to be worshiping God? A kind of separation that he installed between the commitment to worship God, which is detached from other ethical norms. So it's irrelevant to ethical norms or to other parts of the intellectual and spiritual world. This is, I hope I'm saying that right in 2 or 3 sentences, but that's what he did. Anyway, in my childhood and youth, Yeshayahu Leibovich was a huge, giant figure. And I was reading his stuff and I was saying, wow, how can this person give so many influential and important and meaningful contributions in so many things, especially in Jewish philosophy? I was not so much interested in biochemistry at the time. Still not too much interested in biochemistry, but certainly a bit more. Anyway, I was looking at all of the giants of my youth, all of the heroes of my youth. Those intellectuals, I can mention the name of Isaiah Berlin, maybe. So here he is, a philosopher in Oxford or Cambridge, I forgot. By profession, I think a social scientist, maybe political science, but also a very wide philosopher who made serious contributions in many branches of political life and philosophical life and public life. And then I look at my experience as I sit as a referee in the committees of Azrieli and other committees like that. In the committees of Azrieli, we ask you guys, of course, you guys are here. I'm absolutely convinced that to say that you are here the best and brightest. So I look at the files of you guys, the best and brightest, and I see that you guys published, some of the people here published articles in philosophy journals whose acceptance rate is 5%. And some of them, the acceptance rate is even 3%. Writing an article for that kind of journal takes a year of your life to finish up an article. Maybe in your experience stage of the career, maybe a bit less than that. David Enoch would say he's got a lot of experience in such publications. So we ask you to be very committed and very concentrated on your niche. And we can spot very easily if any one of you is doing superficial work. And we can spot very easily and say, you know, this comes up in the referee committee, and you say, well, this person has published, 10 articles, but they are very scattered all over the place, and none of them is very serious. And at this stage of your career, you're judged about that. And when people are giving tenure, this is the kind of thing that they would like to see. And quite often you will hear in these committees, people saying, well, he's published 20 articles, but he's all over the place. None of it is serious. And so what I found myself in the middle, in el mezzo della nostra vita, like Dante had said, I find myself looking up and I said, what would Isaiah Berlin do if he stood up to this kind of committee? Or Yeshayahu Leibovich. Leibovich was bright enough to be a world leader in his biochemistry field alongside the 10 other fields. Okay, but how many people can do what Yeshayahu Leibovich did, or Isaiah Berlin, or other names you can mention? And where is academia leading in that respect? What would I say today about the giants of my youth? Would I say that they are just shallow and all over the place? Does it have to be that the person must have a very strong disciplinary career with all of these super professional journals? And only after that can we expect that person to start publishing to the wider public? Or not even the wider public, but the wider scientific, academic public. Where is all of this leading us? And I find myself at a maze. I am myself, of course, if you look at my publications, I cannot be presumptuous and say that I write super interdisciplinary things, although I do consider myself within the field of biblical studies, or, well, early Judaism, I consider myself to be quite wide in that respect. But I'm quite right in my field. That means I can write both about priestly writings and about, wisdom, Dead Sea Scrolls, and about biblical prophecy. That's quite wide in my field. But how wide how can I expect myself to write something about moral philosophy, ethics? I am interested in ethics. I have my interests. Would it be wise on my part to pronounce them? Would it be worthwhile on my part to pronounce them? I'm sure that as a professional, when I read somebody from outside writing in biblical studies, I can very easily say, well, that person, he or she, well, they're not serious. It's very easy to dismiss that person and say, this is not serious enough. I want a professional to write it. But those people can bring into the field stuff that I cannot bring to the field, because some of the width of and the scope and the abilities and some of that and the true interdisciplinarity, some of that are things that I do not bring into the field. And I have full respect to my interdisciplinary perspective, but those people can bring other stuff, other abilities to the field, and I miss that. And I find myself at the mid of my career wondering, what should I do and what should all of you do as young people who want to get tenure and want to get jobs and want to develop your careers, and where that will take you. I'm, as part of policy committees, I'm finding myself thinking about semi-popular literature. Semi-popular, the kind of the literature I read in my youth, and I'm sure many of you read books like that as well. What should I say about that? Should the academia encourage? I think it should. And I think it should because when I look at the dwindling numbers of enrollees in our department, it's one thing to get a job at the department. It's another thing to find people to enroll in your department. And sooner or later, you will start finding yourself in that problem. And some of our departments in the humanities, you get a handful of students enrolling every year. And if we want life and we want our departments to thrive, then we should think bringing 20 or 30 or 50 enrollees, not 5 every year. And the way to do it goes partly through semi-popular books like I read in my youth, and attracting the attention and giving a challenge to all of those youngsters out there. What should academia do about such publications? Of course, if I want to get research grants, then I should keep writing my articles in journals with a high ranking that would look well with the committees of those committees that give grants. But in the real world, the world that we live in, I think we must pay attention to that. And academia must also find a way to give credit to that. Now, I had another point to take, and I did not take time. It somehow seems to me, Michal, that I somehow spoke my 10 minutes or so. Have I?
Yeah, you did. Okay, take another 2 minutes to finish your point, and then I won't do the questions.
Okay. So, first of all, I'd like to thank. I really appreciate the people here, those that I know and those that I don't know. I appreciate, ex cathedra. I mean, since I know you are here, I understand your worth of appreciation. So I am thankful for you to listening to that, to my wonderings, my very, very initial and preliminary wonderings. And I would very appreciate hearing here or elsewhere what you have to say about it. In some way, if I finish, there's a statement in the book of Kohelet, the biblical book of Kohelet, kind of skeptic. He says, "Echos bazeh v'gam mizeh al tanach yadech." You should do both this and that. Now that's very easy to say, and I should say it's not very encouraging to one's agenda, to one's schedule, daily schedule. How many hours are there in a day if you want to do both disciplinary and wider public engagement? But that might be the way, and I think at the bottom line, I really think academia should really encourage both. And I would really appreciate, I think, if you, as young people in the profession, would immerse yourself in the kind of disciplinarity and expertise that is required for you, but you will not give away the reach out, because at the bottom line, our disciplines will not live long if we give up on that. That's my last word.